Hello, gorgeous. Welcome to HG Radio, everything beauty, cancer, and inspiration. Here is your co founder and host, Kim Becker.
Hello, gorgeous, and thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Kim Becker, and this is Hello, Gorgeous, everything beauty, cancer, and inspiration on Society Bites Radio, social interaction for the mind and soul. Our guest today is Laura Steward. Laura operates from the simple philosophy, treat people better than they expect to be treated. And it is from this belief that she was able to carve her niche and stand out in a highly competitive IT field, building Guardian Angel Computer Services from a sole employee business into the leading multi-state provider of managed technical services. Living an amazing life happens when you ask the right questions. And Laura Steward intuitively knows the right questions to ask. From the wisdom that she learned at her mother's side to the insight that she gained baking pies with her grandmother, Laura has developed the innate ability to ask the questions that propel business leaders and entrepreneurs to incredible achievements. Laura is a sought-after speaker, author, and business advisor and radio host. Hi, Laura, and welcome to the show.
Hello, my friends. So excited to be here. I love your show. It is just so inspiring and helpful in so many ways.
Well, I am so excited to have you here. And I was trying to think, our friendship goes back like 7 years, 8 years.
It's got to be at least that, if not more.
Yeah, I think we knew each other like via phone and that kind of stuff. And then we met in person, right?
Yes, we did. And I was trying to remember, did we meet at Author 101 or did we meet at Wendy Lipton Dibner's event?
It was Wendy Lipton Dibner's event. And I'm wondering if it was the one that was in Orlando. Because I don't know that you ever came out to, did you ever go to any of hers in Connecticut?
I did. I used to live in Connecticut. And
okay.
I actually know exactly where Wendy and Hal live, and I used to help out at their event in Connecticut.
Then I think that that's where I met you the first time, maybe was in Connecticut, and then we reconnected at several of her events in Florida.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah, well, and I'm so grateful to know you, and you've got such amazing insight, and I loved that you were able to do this today, and I love that your topic is on questions, because, you know, one of the things that I did after I got out from behind the chair was to hire a life coach, because I thought, you know, this is a whole new world. And it was somebody that I wanted to sit down with face to face and kind of have me talk through these challenges. And, you know, Mike's, the last 18 months of his life were just really kind of tough with the hospital stays and that kind of thing. And I would always ask the question, why? And my life coach would say to me, you know, that doesn't really get you anywhere. You need to ask a different question. And so the question we came up with is, what am I supposed to learn from this? And that was so impactful to me. I'm so excited to have you on this episode where that's what you talk about, is it's really all about the questions. And I love that.
It really is. And I admire your life coach for telling you that a question you're asking may not be the right question in that moment. Mm-hmm. Because so often we just keep asking the same question over and over again because we're not getting the answer we want.
Right. That's right. And so therefore you think that if you ask that same question, you're going to get a different answer, but you're not. And so I found that for me, when I would ask that question, what am I supposed to learn from this? I saw the lessons in those situations that we were in because of the question that I was asking.
Yeah, you opened yourself up to the possibility that there's an answer you need that you couldn't see before.
That's right.
When I wrote my book, What Would a Wise Woman Do? The title of the book came from this idea from a seminar I had taken that if you can't figure out an answer, if you don't know how to move forward, if you don't even know which direction you should take, ask yourself, what would someone wiser than me do in this situation? Picture somebody, whether it's a family member, it's somebody you've never met, but you've always considered wise. What would a wise woman do? A wise man do? What would this person do in this situation? And all of a sudden, it gives you the freedom to look at another way of thinking at things, or to be open to the fact that I just don't know what to ask.
That's right. And that, and that's amazing, because when you sit down and you open yourself to the fact that I don't have the answer, but the answer is out there. Right. And I think that that's where sometimes people put themselves in a box. Well, it can't ever be done. There is no answer to this. There's no right way to do this. When you ask that question and position it in a way that you open yourself up to all of those possibilities that are there, you find a solution much quicker.
When I had my tech services company and I'd first started it and I was thinking about, what do I do? I was talking to my parents saying, oh, I'm leaving my corporate job, which I had had for like 8.5 years, and I'm going to start my own business. Now, my dad was an entrepreneur and he had worked for others and then worked for himself for many years. And my mom had had a successful career before she decided to have a family. And they were adamantly against it, which I never expected, Kim.
Isn't that funny?
And it really is, because they were always my biggest supporters in the world. They were like, okay, whatever you want to do. But for some reason, this move that I was going to make was really, really freaking them out. And I didn't understand why. And I was beginning to question my decision, because they're like, how can you leave a secure job that you have with benefits and all this other stuff, And a friend of mine, when I was telling her this, she just looked at me and she goes, well, what do you think is, from your parents' perspective, where they came from that is building up their fear? And it hit me that my parents were born of the Depression era, where you didn't give up a cushy job unless you knew what you were stepping into. And, my dad had ups and downs when he left working for somebody else and started his own construction company, and some bad things happened and good things happened. And they were so fearful for me that at such a young age, that I may end up failing, and they just want me to fail. So because of that one question, I started asking, okay, so what are their biggest concerns? Money, that I won't have enough money for an emergency. And I went, okay, well, I've got a year's pay coming, 6 months pay, and a year's medical benefits. So if some crisis happens medically, I'm covered. And I've got 6 months pay that I can save while I'm keeping it up. And I went down this list of this other set of questions that said, is this an important question for me or not? And at the end of it, I was able to talk to my parents, explain, okay, I understand your fears. Here's what I know. And they're like, okay. And 15 years later, I sold my business.
Wow. That's amazing. But you're right. I think that a lot of it is when people question you, or they're not a big fan of yours, it's because they're fearful, or it's because, like what you discovered, right? They were part of the Depression era and they would never step out and do what you were trying to do. And so because of that, they kind of wanted to keep you in a box. But because you were asking the right questions, you were able to show them, hey, look, I'm going to be okay. This is going to be all right.
And I also had somebody that I trusted, that I could speak to, that had knowledge and wisdom and cared enough about me to ask hard questions from outside my perspective of what I knew. Yeah.
So
are you a Harry Potter fan?
My son has watched the movies. I've dabbled in it a little bit, but not huge. But tell me what you've got. Okay.
So with Harry Potter, in the movies and in the books, the characters that are in the pictures on the walls, the painting, photographs, they can move from frame to frame. So they can go visit other people. They can go like across the hallway and look back at their picture that they came out of. And that's such a huge thing that if we could do that, Kim, if we can step outside our own frame.
Amen.
And look in at our lives, at our business, at our situation. It's hard to step out, but if you have somebody that can help you, like you did with your life coach, it enables you to see so many things that when you're right in the middle of it, when you're inside your own frame, you can't see.
There's a saying that I say often, and my team gets tired of hearing me say it, but it's, you can't read the label from inside the jar.
Absolutely.
You're so inside and you look at things, your perspective is so different coming from the inside as having somebody else on the outside being able to look on the inside. So the whole picture frame thing that's huge. That's such a huge way to be able to look at that, because that's so true. If you could step outside the picture and look back at the frame, it would look completely different.
And I love the analogy of the label inside the jar. I never thought of that one. So thank you. Yet another perspective.
Woohoo! All right. So in your book, you talk about sometimes moving forward means having to let go of something versus adding something. What does that mean?
Well, all right. Think of it as your life, and you want to move forward. And what's one of the first things that you start writing a list of? Is it things that you need to let go of, or things that you want to add into your life in order to make that next thing happen?
Sometimes it's more adding in. I hardly ever let go of things. I just keep adding to it. My to-do list gets so long, so it isn't about letting go. I normally add to.
But yet, letting go often frees us up to move forward. An example would be letting go a way of thinking, or letting go people in your life that are holding you back, the people that are the naysayers, the negative talkers, the ones always trying to, as a quote from Dirty Dancing, put baby in a corner.
Yes.
Telling you that there's no way you could ever do that, keeping you small. And I've seen over the course of my life that in order to let go, I have to move forward. One of the biggest examples I can give of this is I was in a crisis with my business. I forget what year it was. And I had staff and things just weren't working out. I mean, I just couldn't seem to move forward. And I had let somebody go, and then another person quit.
Oh my.
And I was happy that the person quit. I hated the fact I had to let somebody go, but they were doing some things that were jeopardizing the business, in my estimation. And as a business owner, I'm the one who has to make that call. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting on the floor of my office crying because I had weeks and weeks worth of projects that I had to get done. And I was the only engineer left in the company to do all the implementations. But I froze. And then I went, now what do I do? And all of a sudden, I realized, call a couple of friends to see if they're available to help you or just give you some advice. Next thing I know, they had called other friends, and some of my competitors had reached out because we talk at events and stuff like that. And they said, transfer your phone calls to us. We'll answer a specific line saying, Guardian Angel Computer Services, so we can handle any new calls that come in, and they'll never know that it's not you. And I had friends offer to fly in and help me cover things. And in an hour, I realized I had a support system.
Wow.
And that I wasn't alone. And then customers, when I called them to say that these employees were no longer with, they said to me, oh, we've been wanting to tell you something, but, we didn't want to, get you upset or anything, but we haven't been happy with this person or with that person. They've been saying some things and they're really just not doing a good job. So letting go enabled my business to then hit 7 figures.
Wow. And that's not normally what we look at. Like for me, it would be, no, I got to keep adding. I got to keep moving. I can't let anything go. I got to hang on to everything and then continue to add. And that's the way that we'll grow. But you're right. That's exactly right. And when you let go, then it makes room for new things, which that's part of evolution.
Right. And in the case of when everything was going on with your incredible husband, when your coach said to you, what can I learn from this? You let go the why. It no longer mattered because you weren't going to get that answer. You would never know why Mike, why cancer, why all these other things. Maybe 10 years from now, you'll know the why. But in that moment, if you had clung to, I need to keep asking this and asking other people, versus letting go this need to get that answer then, where would you be?
That's right. Not where I am.
Right.
So the whole why thing, right? Many people tell us we've been told never to ask why of others, yet you propose that why, that's one of the most important questions that we can ask. So I'm going to ask you, why?
Well, it's funny considering the conversation we just had about the why, right?
Yeah,
But in the context for me, and I never knew there was something called the 5 whys out there. My mother taught me this in first grade, the power of why.
Okay, and share the 5 whys.
Okay, so the 5 whys, what's so important about it is if you're stuck in a situation and you're looking to move out of it, asking yourself why I chose this goal, why I'm with this person, why I'm eating this gigantic bowl of ice cream at this moment, 5 times in a row will really often get to the real why. So when I was trying to decide, using the example of my parents and moving my business forward, leaving corporate, I asked, well, why are they responding this way? And I used that when my friend asked me the question. And by the 5th why, I realized it had nothing to do with me. It was about my parents. Mm-hmm. Because the first why answers you typically give yourself are because, that's the way it's always been done, or that's the way so-and-so told me to. But if you ask yourself why 5 times in a row, why this goal, you will typically get to the real reason behind the why. And I think it's such a critical question when you're about to set a goal for yourself or eat that ice cream when you're trying to lose weight.
That's right, right? That's awesome. I've never heard that before. I'm going to use that. That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell me, what was the most powerful question that you've ever been asked?
Interesting question. When I really think that the most powerful question I was ever asked was when I was in marriage counseling for my first marriage. It kind of failed after 4 months, and we went into counseling. And the therapist, after a few months, said to me, "Why did you want to get married?" And that really embarked me on this whole passion of asking the right questions, even more so than what I talk about in my book in the first chapter in first grade with my mom, but when I walked out of school. But asking me that question made me realize that I was really asking the wrong question about my marriage. And the answer ended up being because I hadn't checked that box. The only thing I hadn't checked was marriage and kids.
Wow.
So even though I knew that there was issues in the marriage before we got married, I said yes because I hadn't checked that box.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. It was a complete shift of the questions I had been asking of do I love him? Why do I want to stay married to him?
Right.
Those kind of things. It was a complete shift in consciousness.
Wow. That's amazing. That's awesome, because you know what I mean? And I bet that was hard for you, right? To really go in and admit that like what you said, it's not necessarily because you love this person, but it was truly about just checking a box to say that, okay, I've been able to do that. That's not easy to come to that, to that resolution either.
Yeah. And I had to reevaluate it and go, okay, now that I know the answer, what are we going to do about the marriage? And it ended up not working out for a lot of other reasons beyond that, because I did love him. And I think on some level he loved me, but it awoke me to a new way of thinking and asking myself questions. And how like 1 or 2 words can completely change a question.
That's right. And so on that same note then, so your mom had colon cancer, but the doctors never went there for the diagnosis until you pushed them. So what was the most important thing that you can do for loved ones that are patient advocates about bringing in those questions? How do you push people to get those answers when you know that there's something else wrong?
Well, I think, and you've been through this so much with your family and with loved ones and the people that you support through Hello Gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
The most important thing you can do as an advocate for your loved ones in a medical crisis is to understand that you know them better than the doctors do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's normal for them. You know what's not normal for them. And you can always ask for the charge nurse at the hospital, which I think half the people do not know that there is somebody that they can go to that knows more than, in most cases, the doctors.
Right.
And if you go to the charge nurse and say, look, this is what's going on, and I don't know who to talk to about it, but I know this is not right. This is not normal. They can help you. They can support you because nurses are often more willing, sadly, to listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that I think we can do for our loved ones in a medical crisis is to know that not every doctor is the right doctor for us.
That's right.
I had this doctor that just didn't want to acknowledge that it was not my mom's emphysema or her congestive heart failure or the fact that she had a bad heart. And he's like, well, she can't breathe because it's the emphysema has escalated. And I'm like, okay, but how does that fit with her platelets being this low and her iron being this low and her hematocrit and everything? And he goes, well, she's just failing and she needs to just go to hospice. And I said, if it was your mother, what would you do?
Right. Great question.
And you know what he said? He said, I would give her iron. I said, then why are you not giving my mother iron? I said, what else would you do? And he said, well, I'd probably have a CT scan of her abdominal to maybe see if there's a place that the blood is going. Well, when they did that CT scan, they noticed a mass. So they ordered a colonoscopy, which showed colon cancer. And then they're like, she needs to have surgery, but we need to schedule the surgery. And I said, okay, my mom's just gone through what is very difficult for somebody in her medical condition, the colonoscopy prep.
Yeah,
right?
No kidding.
Which,
yes.
If anybody's been through it, it's hard
Awful.
enough when you're healthy, but when you're not trying to get to the bathroom. So I called somebody I knew. I had met an event and he was involved with cancer stuff at the hospital. And I called him and I said, what would you do? And he said, give me 5 minutes. And next thing I know, the phone's ringing and this incredible surgeon in our area, Derek Paul, who had the day off, calls me and said, we're not going to put your mother through another prep. I have the day off. I've called the OR. We're getting her scheduled. Don't let them move your mother from where she is. We're scheduling her for surgery right now.
Wow.
And it turned out to be the best form of colon cancer you can get. It was at the edge. They got clean borders. She didn't need, a bag or anything like that. No chemo, no radiation. But if I hadn't pushed and if I hadn't asked that one doctor, because I knew, what he was saying was wrong. And deep in my soul, I said, what would you do if this was your mother?
That's right. That's right. And sometimes you need to, they dehumanize themselves. I think the doctors do. They dehumanize themselves. And so what you did by asking that question is you made him human. And so then he thought about your mother as another human, not just another person that he had to work on. So right. I think that was brilliant. That was awesome. Well, all right.
You.
Well, my dear, we are almost out of time. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. Tell our listeners one more time, where can they find more information about you and the questions?
They can go to nice and simple, Laura Steward with a D, laurasteward.com, and you can get free chapters of my book, a free workbook to ask better questions, and some other resources. And they can listen to my podcast where they can hear you on my show.
Yes, I was grateful to be a guest on your show. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out to speak with me today and share the work that you do. Listeners, if you have any questions, comments, or you'd like to know more about the guest on our show today, or for more information about Hello Gorgeous, feel free to contact me at kbecker@hellogorgeous.org or visit our website at www.hellogorgeous.org. We invite you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and download our mobile app. Thank you for joining me today on Hello Gorgeous, Everything Beauty, Cancer, and Inspiration. I'm your host, Kim Becker, and until next time, stay gorgeous.